Seamless travel matters a lot to people. People tend to think of their journeys from the house to the office, not from the station to the station. And we've not been particularly good at this in Britain. And Switzerland, probably one of the best examples you could think of people who do it well. Cycling is a very easy solution, which we've been very slow to implement in Britain. There is £14 million happening already, being spent very fast, I promise you. To get this cycling storage up to at least 5%, so that for 5% of the travellers coming to the station, there will be assured storage. And the new cycle hub at Leeds is committed, contract let, and this will be a Dutch one where you can, within the cycle hub, have secure storage where it's under guard. If you wish to pay £1 a day, you can have repairs and you can have hire. All that's to come. And the missing part, and my partner Peter Hall felt particularly strongly on this, is integrating this with the whole planning of the local area. So in a Dutch town, you'd have cycle routes leading to the station where you never met a car and crossed at lights where there was a road. And those cycle routes led straight down that ramp there under the station, and within there you can store 9,000, 10,000 cycles. That's the vision, and I think Leeds is going to be a roaring success at that. And there's bags of scope here for local authorities and railways working together at very low cost to make these happen. And don't let any train company tell you we can't afford to do the simple storage. The bigger storage obviously is going to need more investment. Excellent work is being done around the country with bus rail hubs, and again this is an example of shared investment. And the modern bus station, for example, at Liverpool South Parkway, or indeed at Barnsley in this situation, means you go from the bus through a glass door into a waiting area, and you've got information on trains, and in the case of Barnsley, escalators straight up to the trains. We just need to make this more consistent. Nice example at Nelson, where a recent initiative has moved the bus station physically across the town to be next to the station, integrated information systems, and I think you're right in saying trains and buses are actually on the same screen, real time. And the Plus Bus initiative hasn't cost us anything and is a wonderful aid to getting people to use the bus. If you think of a Londoner going to Manchester on business, perhaps for the first time in their lives, they go on the train. What on earth do they do when they get to Manchester? They don't know, and they get in a taxi. Plus Bus means you buy a ticket for an add-on of about £1.70, £2. When you buy your ticket at London, you can use any bus, and hopefully in the future any tram in Manchester, and you're starting to get into continuous, seamless passenger movement, as opposed to abandoning public transport the moment you've got to Manchester. Assured parking kept coming through in the research. It's that fear of driving to Stevenage to get the train to Doncaster and finding you can't park. You're going to be at least an hour late in Doncaster, and you probably wrecked your meeting, and you hate railways for a very long time afterwards. That does mean we need more car parking capacity in Britain, and it should be self-funding over time. And it may take 20 years. I think Virgin West Coast is looking at a 20-year payback, but you can get private money into this and pay it back over 20 years. If you were going for perfection, you'd go for 350,000 extra spaces. Spaces, absolute spaces, and we've got about half those at the moment. So we're saying let's go for 150,000 spaces, go double deck. And you can go double deck in the expensive way, as Virgin Trains have, or you can go it in the cheaper way, which Chiltern or London Midland have. And it doesn't matter which. Those buildings will both last well beyond the 20-year time. And where these car parks have been provided, there's an immediate boost in traffic, because people have got that confidence they'll be able to park, and the car will be there with four wheels when they get back.
Were they paid for entirely by Network Rail, by the top budgets then?
Top budget.
You said they're Virgin and...
they've borrowed the money, and it gets paid back over 20 years, and whoever wins the franchise in 2012 must pay that money back. It's quite smart. It's great, isn't it? We get car parks. Now, the last part of the presentation really is very much Peter Hall's, and Peter was looking sort of in a more visionary way at how stations are going to change in Europe in the next 20 years. And as he points out, 2030 is no further away than 1990, which feels quite close still. And we need to start thinking about this now, and we don't need to get put off with a 3-year financial hiccup. Let's think 20 years ahead, what is it we want from stations? And he thinks it's all about making the interchange work so that they become part of the community and the total transport scene rather than an isolated railway venture. And he took the extreme example of Berlin Hauptbahnhof, which is a national project done by national government, which makes a major statement in Berlin. It's the arrival point, it's the airport in the middle of Berlin, the crossing point of 2 major intercity routes, got the subway and the metro running through it. And I think it's an amazing success. I'm not saying we'll have many of those, but Birmingham New Street, when finished, will not be far off that. And that's going to be a stunning £300 million glass terminal in the middle of Birmingham, 3 times the size of the present one. Then you come to the big super suburban stations, which we are not so good at. This is perhaps the big B stations where the Dutch have made the investments, and you're looking for space to move around, you're looking for escalators, you're looking for lifts, you're looking for interchange. Amsterdam Arena was one of the best we saw for that. And the lost opportunity at Stratford International, or Stratford Olympic, whatever you want to call it, which we were talking about earlier this morning. There, what should have been an East London gateway has become an isolated station, or 2 stations, which aren't going to have the same impact as Amsterdam. Regional super hubs we're probably fairly good at. So Strasbourg, Zurich, Munich, yes, but we would answer Birmingham, Manchester, Leeds, Bristol, and I think we generally do those well. Super bus hubs we hardly touch. And Peter was very impressed with what he saw in Brisbane and Bogota, where train and bus were just treated equally. They arrived in parallel island platforms, interconnected, and were on the information systems as one operation. Very good. And railwomen are rather bad at not accepting buses as part of the transport package. City parkways, Peter's view is there won't be many of these. These are artificial stations built in the countryside to attract motorists, mainly to lines which aren't well served. And there are not many of these. Bristol Parkway would be a good example in Britain, Valence TGV. Ebbsfleet ought to be, but still disappointingly used from what I saw yesterday. And Warrington Parkway is a potential. If you could get a very quick access to a station off the M6 and M62 at Warrington, non-stop to London every hour, you would have a cracker of a interchange. Could be the new railway, could be the old one. Rail, air, again, limited opportunities. Frankfurt do it extremely well on the new ICE line. Schiphol do it very well as the hub of the whole Dutch network. We don't have many stunning examples in Britain. Birmingham International is probably the best connected, where you arrive right next to the airport and you've got intercity trains to most parts of Britain. Gatwick, but not really very good at getting across the Thames. And Heathrow, not there, is it? It's just a shuttle at the moment. And the conclusion from all this is that you do come back to needing those minimum station standards. Whether you're going to build a super Berlin or whether you're going to build a humble, simple station, you really do need to know what it is you're trying to go for. We think these should be built into future franchises, and they can be built in at a humble level and build them up, because the franchises are constantly changing, or they can go for what we recommended, which was a straightforward series of standards for A, B, C, D, E, F stations across the country. Far better planning needs to go into stations. They must not be planned by railway people on their own. They really are transport hubs for the community, and they should be built with the local transport planners and built ahead. We should be thinking 10 years ahead, and we can start now in the years of deficit, and then when the years of plenty come back, we can start accelerating the implementation. And finally, we should think of them as transport hubs, not just as stations for trains. And the more we can attract the taxis, the cycle, the buses to their location and persuade people to relocate their bus stations. Preston probably been the worst example we came across, where the bus station is almost a mile away, the other side of the town. It makes interchange almost impossible there. That could be a cracker of a hub in that area, if only we could bring the two forms of transport together. So with that, I rest my case. Thank you for listening and look forward to the questions.